the game of basketball kind of picked me. It's that I don't have the convention story where, I grew up watching the NBA. I had Michael Jordan posters on the wall. Like this wasn't my upbringing. The first, I played 3 years for the Spurs, right? The first 3 years were a nightmare.
When it's your time, it's your time. Nobody can take it away from you.
My mindset is really the mindset of a warrior, right? They've brought every big man on the planet in front of me. So I had to fight, and I have to keep believing in myself. Crazy enough, after that season, the Spurs don't sign me. I end up going to the Dallas Mavericks. So the 3 years I spent with the Spurs, we don't win a chip, even though we are a high contender. The year I left to go to the Mavs, I win with the Mavs.
God, man, when the universe is playing your music, you just gotta dance.
That's one thing we do great in Africa is like, we're so resilient. We workers. We work so hard. Everything that you're gonna send to the universe is gonna throw that thing right back at you.
Welcome in the Valley. I'm your host today, and my name is Ibrahim Sanya. We have an amazing show today, but before that, a gentle reminder. Press that subscribe button, join the community of funders and founders, changing sports, tech, entertainment, and fashion from Africa to the rest of the world. And never miss a thing. Enjoy the show. Ian, the legend, here with us in the Valley. Welcome.
Thank you.
Bonjour, mon frère. It's always good to have with us a francophone, because I'm part of the francophone mafia from Senegal. You come from the Senegal. You come from the Benin side of the francophone ecosystem. And you are one of our rare legends that started in this side of the Atlantic, more precisely in Rouen, in your case, in France, and then moved to the US, started at the Spurs, a little bit after Robinson, carried the flag, and then spent time with 3 other teams. And during that journey, collected a ring. Tell us a bit more about that traversée from France to America and the best episodes that you can remember, but also the toughest challenge you face and what you did to overcome them.
Okay. Thanks, Ibrahim. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here sharing this mic with you. Obviously, you went very fast forward on this journey. It went fast. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it's I can't really start the story without kind of explaining to you where I come from. In the beginning is my dad and it's my mom, right? It goes further than that, but as far as me, I have a dad that's from Benin, and the great Republic of Benin, and I have a strong warrior heritage attached to that, him and my last name, and then I have a mom
From Jamaica here.
Exactly.
Wow.
I have a mom from Jamaica, right, that left Jamaica to go to France and met my dad, obviously, and
We got a chance to meet earlier. Great privilege and honor.
yes. And, obviously the mix of these two culture, made pretty strong babies, right? And my case, before basketball, I was a soccer player, and I wanted to be
That's what I heard. A tall soccer player.
a tall one, wearing these yellow shoes, and, limping on the field and, obviously using all these athletic abilities that, I inherited from my parents and my family, right? So, the game of basketball kind of picked me. It's that I don't have the convention story where, I grew up watching the NBA. I had Michael Jordan posters on the wall. Like this wasn't my upbringing, right? I was, came from humble beginnings, obviously immigrants' parents, and, grew up in in the hood, with my brothers from Mali, Senegal, Ivory Coast. And, I had that type of upbringing. And, I played soccer first, and then the game of basketball picked me. And when I say pick me is I stopped playing soccer. I wanted to play basketball, but, I didn't really have a team. But I was already tall. I was 12, 13 years old, already, big kid. And the coach saw me in the recess at school, and he's like, hey, you tall kid, whenever you get a chance, come to practice. We practice every night. And they practice at my school, my middle school, right? And that first time I went to practice, it's like I had this moment where I was making everything, every basket, everything was going well for me that day. I don't know why, but everything was going well. So everybody around me were gassing me, right? It's like, everybody's like, why you don't play basketball, man? You should play, come here. And like me, I was like, I don't know, And then, little by little, I kept on going, and my little brother was born around that time, and I wanted to watch for him too. And then my mom, she saw that I really enjoyed the game of basketball. So eventually she's like, man, don't worry about your little brother. I got him. You just go and play, and I see you like it.
Amen.
So that's how everything started. And next thing you know, I get recruited. And I left home, I was 13 years old, right?
Wow.
And never came back.
Wow.
It's like, I went to Le Havre. They have the professional team, but I was playing in the youth program, the youth academy. By the time I was 16, I became a pro. So I was a 16-year-old playing professional with the grown-ups, practicing every day, going to school, going to practice, going back to school, going back to practice. So I had very heavy day. And, I often talk about, all the little sacrifice. Then I've now realized that I didn't have the regular upbringing of a regular childhood where, you get to go to birthday parties, you get to hang out with your family, you get to do these things. Like me, since the age of 13, I'm out the house. I miss every family event. Basically, I'm on my own figuring out things, how to wash your clothes, how to,
Independent,
exactly.
Costs and benefits.
Exactly. So I did this, and obviously when I say the game picked me, it picked me because I became good at it quick. I had the ability to understand and to incorporate to my game, to, digest things quick. And I became better than, kids my age. And when I turned 18, I was drafted by the Spurs.
Wow.
So from 13 to 18 years old, I felt like everything went fast forward. Like, when you press on that tape, everything happened so fast. And so in 2005, I get drafted by the Spurs first round, right? 28 pick. And then the Spurs are telling me like, hey, listen, you're very young. You still need to play more. So we want you to stay overseas for a little bit. You have to gain some playing time and you have to gain more experience. So I'm like, okay. I spent 2 more years in France, and I did great things and great teammate, great coaching staff. Everybody was on board. And then 2 years later, 2007, I decided like, okay, it's my time to go. I'm not going to wait any longer. So I tell Coach Pop and them, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to come, and I worked very, very hard to get there. And then that was the beginning, and then the first, I played 3 years for the Spurs, right? The first 3 years were a nightmare. When I said nightmare is that, I came with all these expectations, right? But also when you step in this locker room, for me, being drafted by the Spurs was a blessing and a curse at the same time. Why? Because you're coming in a franchise that's used to winning championships, By the way, when they drafted me in 2005, they had just won a championship. Then in 2 years later, in 2007, they had won another one, right? So they were in their prime.
Yeah.
So I get in this locker room and I look around and it's like, whoa, like I'm surrounded by greatness. Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Bruce Bowen, Tim Duncan, Mike Finley, you name them, they dare sit next to me. So the blessing and the curse was that there was no playing time for me at that time. So my first year, basically, I get there, I barely play, I spent most of the time in the G League. Back then, it's called the D League.
Yeah, development league.
Exactly. And then I do amazing, right? I do good. I make first team G League. I make the All-Star weekend. So even though that's also a funny story, even though I wasn't in the NBA, I made the All-Star. And
Nice.
the G League is incorporated in the regular All-Star weekend. So I get there and then I get to see Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili. So I feel like, hey, I'm doing something,
Something, yes.
So this was cool. But what happened is that the following summer, they saw the Spurs saw that I've had a great year and they're like, okay, we're going to make space for you. And that summer I worked tremendously hard, man, because I was like, this is my opportunity now, I'm here, I'm going to take a spot. And I ended up breaking my ankle. So that summer, it's August, and we go to Vegas. That's where every player goes and plays.
Yeah, the summer league. Yeah,
it's not summer league. It's like it's in August. It's like they have this big gym, the Gerg, Coach Gerg's gym.
Oh, really?
And it's like nobody talks about it, but every NBA players is there. It's in Vegas, and we just play open gym all day, morning till night. We just play straight NBA players. So I go there, first game, I land on Paul Millsap's foot. I broke my ankle. I go straight from the court to the ER. Boom. Then I go back to San Antonio. Long story short, I missed this whole second year, And the third year, Coach Pop is real to me. And he's like, listen, like we counted on you that second year. Now, for the benefit, we had a bad season that year, and it's like, okay, we need to improve the center position because, obviously we missed you greatly. So I come back that third season, and I'm like the 6th or the 7th big man, meaning like I'm not seeing the court, man. They've brought every big man on the planet in front of me. So I had to fight, and I have to keep believing in myself, And I remember throughout this, my pops was with me, and, throughout the surgery, the douse, and he's, keep pushing me. And I had great coach that's like keeping me ready. And we start the season and I'm on the bench, but I'm not even dressing. I'm on the bench, but behind the bench, like I'm wearing a suit, right? So I'm not even playing. And the one of the toughest thing was to watch the young players, the new ones that they had just drafted.
Time.
They getting time. They getting jiggy with it. And like me, I'm like, I was there before you guys, but I'm not playing. I'm there. And, so it was really, really a tough time in my career, really bottom. And, but my family kept me together. My coaches kept me together. And then we go a few months like that, Like the season starts in October, November, December, I don't play. Don't at all. And then December comes and Pop is like, okay, I'm going to give some guys a day off. So, Yan, you're going to play tonight. All right, I was ready, though. So that night, I had 19 and 9, something like that.
Yeah, you had like triple.
I was
triple-double score.
I was ready. I was ready. So after that, it changed everything. They was like, okay, this kid could play. Why this kid wasn't playing before?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my entry in the NBA. It happened the third season, right? So I had to keep thinking.
When it's your time, it's your time. Nobody can take it away from you.
And crazy enough, after that season, the Spurs don't sign me. I end up going to the Dallas Mavericks. So the 3 years I spent with the Spurs, we don't win a chip, even though we are a high contender.
Yeah.
The year I left to go to the Mavs, I win with the Mavs.
Exactly. That's amazing, right?
Man, sometime, man, Godspeed.
God, man, when the universe is playing your music, you just gotta dance.
Exactly. So I had, pretty solid career, 13 years in the NBA. Like you said, 4 different franchises. Got to, elevate my game and my skills and get to know unbelievable persons throughout my career. And, I felt like you really built me, shaped my leadership, built me to be in the position that I am right now and to answer the call.
So talking about answering the call, obviously with success, you have a larger family in terms of demand. What makes you get up in the morning? Because once you've achieved all the milestone you have, demand comes pouring. You have to be selective. What do you do? What do you not do? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? How is that algorithm working?
Okay. No, for me, I always go back to my family, go back to my heritage, go back to my superpower, if I could say so, because I don't need much to get out of the bed. Matter of fact, I don't need an alarm every day. I just get up because I'm driven. I'm driven by something that feels right to me, right? And I just had this discussion this morning, and that's why I'm hyped. We get to speak again and elaborate on it again. But knowing who you are and knowing like where you come from is very important as far as understanding like your gift, your God-given gift in life, understanding like purpose and being good at what you do on an everyday basis, right? And for me, understanding my last name, and understanding my heritage, it's really like you asked me what helps me get out of bed. That's what helped me get out of bed, And
so get the last name and the meaning for the audience.
Yeah, so the last name is Mahinmi, and that name in Fon means support, backbone. It means I will be here to help, to support you, to help you, to assist you, right? It's that notion. But understanding that if you watch the movie The Woman King, if you know about the Amazon, if you know a little bit about the Amazon and the Agogie, and those are my people. So where I come from, Zayanado, the city in Benin, that's where the warriors used to train.
Wow.
So my lineage is straight from warrior family.
Wow.
And my dad always told me, like, he's like, hey, never forget, you come from a family of warrior. I've heard that ever since I'm a little kid.
Hey, man. Echo chambers.
So, understand this. It's not that I'm built to just go and pick up a gun and go fight. That's not. There's just the logic behind it. My resiliency comes from there. The way I approach things. I always I strategize a lot. When I'm confronted to something. I strategize and then I go and I execute. So my mindset is really the mindset of a warrior, right? I don't like to be on the floor. Like you will see players get on the floor and stay on the floor. Like me, you will never see me lay on the floor. I get right back up. It's in me. It's like I just can't lay, So understanding all of these things makes total sense when you know where you come from, what's your heritage, what's your lineage. And being a warrior, it's in me. And then you add the Jamaican gene, like the resiliency of Jamaicans, their personalities, and it's like, for me, I don't need much to get out of bed, right? And my calling, with my magic, the magic in me is to know that I need to be there for people.
Yes.
Right. I need to assist people. I might not be the one in the light, but, if I could help you, you have a stronger light on your side.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
You get what I'm saying?
Amen. So about to that. Wow. That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Rumi that says that when a candle lights another candle, it does not lose its light. So it's so powerful that you're clear about it, you're happy to share it, and you don't need to be about the light. No, just give it effortlessly.
Exactly. And that's what my dad has done his whole life. This is a thing that I have. Growing up, I was like really shocked every time. So my dad obviously is a teacher, and he left Benin to learn German, right?
Wow.
Learn another language, right?
Wow. As an adult, that's not easy.
That's not easy, huh? But to make a long story short, my dad speaks like 6 different languages, right?
Wow.
So I could go on and on to tell you guys like why he speaks that many languages, but my dad is well diverse when it comes to speaking language. And then his whole vision was to come back and work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? That was his thing. Like, let me be well diverse in my lingo, and so, I could help my country, right? You can obviously see the trend.
Yes,
So it did happen, but what happened is that he was recruited by Madame Montier, which is he called her his second mother, and she had a school, like an international school that used to host people from all across the world. He gave them basics, outside Paris in my hometown. And so he then met my mom that came from Jamaica and needed, a little bit of, French and a little bit of structured. So he left home, but his magic powers was, to help and support others.
Even now in the NBA, that's what you're doing. You're clearly one of the most visible ambassadors for the brand, but especially it's spectacular to see what you do with the kids, the youth, the clinics. It's something that, I've witnessed some of them, you do them effortlessly again. And now that I know more about your dad, I can see the teacher hidden in you, because there's something that keeps on coming through. And it's very needed on the continent, because, the power of mankind is to be able to climb a hill, a mountain, discover a secret, and come back to the valley to share it. And it's beautiful to see how much you continue to share. So maybe you want to share some of your upcoming projects, things that are deep in your heart at the moment. Today's episode is sponsored by Statement. Statement is a media company focused on editorial coverage and market analysis of the African entertainment industry. Its production arm builds a pipeline for African women filmmakers. Magic Johnson, Samuel L. Jackson, and Latanya Richardson Jackson are among the investors that support the Statement's mission. We are big fans.
It's just like I said, it's doing more of what I'm at the essence of things are, and so I started this company back in Benin, and this company is there. It's called Tailoring Sports Investment. And this company is there to cater to people that want to develop sports, right? There's obviously this is my expertise. I've been in the sport industry for a long time, and it's a crazy stat that came to me about a year and a half ago, where the continent of Africa, let's put it that way, the world sport industry generate about $500 billion a year. And the continent of Africa gets out of this big pot, gets the equivalence of 2% of that, 500 billion.
Wow.
So when I get these stats, I'm like, man, this is crazy, because our athletes are the one that makes
the 500 billion.
And you realize that, we lacking different things, and we lacking things. And for me, what I can only do is support, and it's assisting, and it's helping. So in the creation of this entity, I had 4 things in mind. I said, okay, well, we need help in the infrastructure department. Obviously on the continent, we lacking infrastructure.
Stadiums, training centers.
Everything. Even recreational.
Yeah.
Sport or
just gyms.
Exactly.
Even a gym is a luxury.
So infrastructure-wise, we need help, and then the second thing that's also in need is events. We need more sporting events on the continent, And the third thing that we're focusing on is the health department, but it's health and wellness. It's such
amazing. Tell us more about your inclination towards wellness, because it's something we have strong inclination at Silverbacks and in the show.
Wellness is something that's completely neglected on the continent.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, taking care of your mind, taking care of yourself, putting yourself first for a little bit of time during the day, you know, and this comes in a various way. You don't have to be a great athlete, you know, to take care of your wellness. You know, it's about mental health. You know, it's about like doing things for yourself. You know, it's about a massage. It's about doing yoga. It's about meditation. You know, it's about having a spa day. You know, it's about, you know, dedicating time to yourself, to your health, you know. And that is something that we don't do enough. We just abuse ourselves and, you know, mental and, you know, and it's something that's really, you know, for me, strikes me as a, you know.
As a gap.
Yes, it's big gap, you know, and there's obviously many reasons why people are not, you know, paying attention to that. But, you know, I want to bring light to that, you know. And it's like I said, you know, in that department, health and wellness, it's not so much the athletes. It's the everyday guy, the everyday mom that walks like 45 minutes to work and back. By doing that, like she's putting a ton of stress on your body.
Yeah.
Who's taking care of that?
Yeah.
You know, you come home, you have kids, you're stressed, you have to pay your bills and things like that. Who's taking care of your mind too?
Right.
You know, there is now a ton of ways to do that. And some of them might be a little bit of time consuming, but some not. Some you might need money, some you might not need any money. You know, it's just a awareness, you know.
And discipline and just do it.
Exactly. So all these things I want to put light to it. So I'm dedicated to that. And the last department is the one that's taking a whole lot of my time now is the professionalization of sport careers, you know, because there is people have this, I want to say this bad connotation that, you know, anytime I do sports, I have to be the athlete on the field or on the floor, where no, you know, there is no me if I don't have a good coach, if I don't have a good strength and conditioning coach, if I don't have a good doctor, if I don't have a good trainer, if I don't have a good contents guy that's going to make me look good on camera, if I don't have
it's the whole ecosystem.
The whole
functions of jobs, of roles.
And, you know, so most of the time we're just skipping everything, you know, and we believe that we could just be good by watching a clip on the internet or by, you know, just as we do, you know, that's one thing we do great in Africa is like, we're so resilient. We workers, we work so hard.
Yeah.
You work in any circumstance. Like you might not have the equipment, but you're gonna make something out of nothing, and you're gonna work. Yeah. But you're not working smart.
Yes.
And in 2024, you want to be a good athlete and you want to be calling yourself professional. You need to work smart.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
It's not about no. It's about understanding there's a science behind everything. You know.
Talking about working smart, what are your feelings about AI, and what do you think we can do to integrate in?
I mean,
sports industry.
AI is great. You know, you just have to know how to use it. It's just like, you know, a few years ago we came with collecting data, right?
Yeah.
And then now, next thing you know, the data is running the league. Like, okay,
yes.
Just like, okay, now we have data on guys that practice. So now, we need to not practice too much because the data shows that if I practice too much, I'm not going to be able to perform.
And then I'll get injury.
Exactly. So once you go too much into the data, you defeat the purpose also. Yeah. So AI for me is the same thing. AI provides amazing insight, gain of time, incredible gain of time in your day-to-day job. You know, it's just about the usage of it. It's almost like you need to never forget to leave space for natural effect. You know, there's a natural way of doing things that you need to pay attention to. That AI cannot give you that answer. You know us. We Beninese, we're very spiritual.
Yes, that I know. A lot of Beninese brothers. So that I know that you guys are the epicenter. The other thing that resonate when you were talking earlier about meditation and wellness is I have had a few chats with some friends, and the one thing people do not notice is the common thread between excess and non-excess. So if you take physical body, mind, and even technology, when we're saying not too much AI, not too much of anything. So even your body, when you're very sick, it's been demonstrated that when you go into a fasting, any fasting that you find in any religion, you actually come out on the other side of the fence better.
Yes.
And actually, if you suppress absolute meat consumption in some disease like cancer, it kills the entire cell or diminish the size of the cancer cell. And the same way, if you meditate often, you tend to get away from trauma or stress or depression. And if you look at the two processes, they're very similar. One seems to be the negative because of excess of meat, food, alcohol. The other one is excess of consumption of internet, social media, life. But the moment you disconnect long enough, there's something good that happens naturally without anything superficial, digital, medical, but your inner nature tend to treat problems if you let it do its job. And I think from what you were saying, there was a lot of that I kind of sense in the subject of wellness, meditation. And I think, like you, that is very important that more of our people, more of the world gets to know
Exactly
that remedy set.
This is very strong. This is definitely in my department. I might have to put light on you so you could.
I am waiting for the light. I'm ready. Because I love that department.
Because what you said is true. You know, I have a friend of mine, Econ, that, break down the word fasting. When you're fasting, is the fastest way to get healthy.
Amen.
You see? So
amen. I'm going to have to borrow that one.
Have it. But yeah, this is like in the nature you find every answers. All answers are there. And you said a key word just like a minute ago when you said it's about balance, right? My dad is always telling me that, man. It's like anything you do in life, you got to apply balance, man. And you might do something too much or you might do something not enough. It's for you to figure out, that balance. And a whole lot of us are unbalanced, and it's not to say like, okay, you can't consume meat, or it's not like to say that you can't consume alcohol. It's balance to everything.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, and you actually pay attention to the nature and, you're aware of certain things and, you're talking about meditation, man, they're always on.
And now with social media, they're just swiping.
Yeah.
And the computer is giving you more of what you're swiping. So it's like, oh, you want sushi? I got more sushi for you. I got this type of sushi. Oh, you want kebab? I got this.
Exactly.
So we're just killing our essence.
You're always on. And like, so the essence of meditation is understanding how to turn off. People don't even know what it is to shut it off. Shut your brain off. Be nowhere. Just off. It's an exercise like me. I've started this a long time ago. It helped me throughout my career tremendously.
Amen.
Like yoga and meditating has been such like one of my secret, whole career. To be able to handle like all these stress situation, people, say what you want, but playing in front of 20,000 people every night, having the whole world every day, having something to say about you, about your outfit, about what you look, about what you ate, about what you've done,
how you've moved,
it's stressful.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I'm telling you. So being able to take a step back and shut everything off has helped me tremendously.
It's amazing people don't see it, because even in our modern society, if you look at the computer, whenever you're typing and it's not functioning or it freezes, what do? You press Control Alt Delete.
Yes.
You shut it off.
Yes.
Then you turn it back on, and for no reason that can be explained, it's back on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you continue, it's not working. Being frozen is the same as depression, obesity or whatever. It's just excess. Computer is just telling you that, my friend, right now, I just need to meditate. Just shut me off for a second. But like everything in science and nature actually speaks the same language. I just think that as human, we just don't read the signs. But they're like all there. They all follow the same logic. Because even if you think when you are lost in an island, so your computer gets email all the time. So you think even when you get lost in a place or in a plane, and there's no movie and there's nothing to do but read your email, you're going to go back. There's no internet, so there's no new email coming. So what you do is you go to your old email. And that's kind of how your body processes, right? If you're fasting, because I'm fasting right now as I'm speaking, your body is actually going into old processes or old food it did not process. So I think a lot of the things in nature and what we try to put in modern society is all one of the same. It's just that as humans, we fail to just read the sign.
Let me ask you something, Ian.
Yes, sir.
How was your time during the pandemic?
It's the best time of my life.
That was the best time of my life too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all need some time.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying we need a pandemic all the time, right? But I'm just saying, from time to time, you could shut it down. Just give yourself time to do nothing. There is nothing to do. There is no work. Everything is locked down, man. There is no phone call, no emails. There's no rush. You're here, you're home, you got to take care of your family. You got to take care of yourself. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I'll take it even one step. So there's nowhere to go outside. So the power of the pandemic was like, it was the time to go inside, which is, so for me, it's the best time because actually even what we're doing as a company, this podcast, our investment in sport, all that comes from that time. That was the time of internalization, reprocessing, rethinking, it was really a time of introspection. And I think that all the things we're saying about meditation, I think when you disconnect, the magic happens.
Yes.
Because you kind of do the unfinished homework. Because, life gets busy and you tend to keep on being hit by a thunderstorm, a rain, but there's some basics that are under your nose that you fail to see. So for me, the pandemic was the opportunity to see everything that was under the nose and take a second life. It was like a phoenix moment.
Me, I'm very spiritual. My dad, myself, and there's, like you said, there's a big element. There's the world that you see with your eyes open, and then there's a world that you see when your eyes closed. Right? And this part right here comes when you meditate, when you sleep. Matter of fact, why you grow when you sleep? Because you're able to close your eyes and your muscles are shut down. You're not walking, you're not sitting, you shut your muscles down.
Yeah.
So you grow when you sleep, right? And same thing when you go into your meditation, you go into, like me, my career, I also did a lot of visualization.
Yes.
And that's key. I had a basketball clinic earlier today, and I was telling the coaches, hey guys, have your players visualize, how they play. So there's the power. It's kind of a hidden secret. But when you close your eyes and you see yourself doing certain things, they will come in the real life.
It will manifest.
It will manifest. And, I was telling these coaches this morning, have them seeing themselves,
closing out on defense, like blocking a shot, like communicate to their teammates. Because like for me in my career, like this was some games I've won before I even played the game, because I had already seen myself being successful. I had already seen myself doing the job that I'm supposed to do. So all of this world that you actually happens between your 2 ears is as equally as important as what you do with your eyes open.
Yes. Entre la parenthèse. C'est là que tout se passe.
C'est ça, exactement.
My brother, I'm going to hit you with some quotes because, you and I could discuss for hours because I didn't know that this side of you was so deep. So one of this one is from Steve Jobs.
Okay.
He says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future.
Ooh, this one is a tough one because my dad, and if you know my dad a little bit, my dad is kind of a philosopher. So, yeah.
I'm going to have to spend some time with him.
But my dad has always taught me and my siblings one thing. And he has always said, okay, guys, in life you could run, you could walk, you could crawl, do whatever you want. But if you want to look back, you have to stop, turn around, look back. You could say as long as you want. And before you go forward, make sure you turn back around. Because if you're trying to go forward, basically backwards, you're going to hit yourself. You're going to hit your head somewhere. Right?
Wow.
So for me, I always had that approach. When I go full speed. But there is always a time, to turn around and to look how far you've come. So to connect the dots, to get back to Steve Jobs' quote, to connect the dots, there's an element of faith in connecting the dots, but you have to have a strong vision of where you came from. Like, you have to have a trend. You have to have some type of direction, to be able to connect the dots and to be able to have, faith. So it's on that one, I'm kind of having mixed feelings on that one.
This one is from Naval Ravikant. He says the people who have the ability to fail in public under their own name actually gain a lot of power.
That's true. You got to own, own your decision. You have to embrace the journey, Obviously, a lot of people might hear about the Mamba mentality, which is like Kobe, is definitely one of the greatest leaders we had. But, you have to be able to own your decision publicly. The journey is going to be a lot of disappointment, a lot of failing. But for those that are willing to take the failing and the disappointment,
the price is big.
The price, will be, it's always like I don't pay a lot of attention to people that are inspirational speakers. Sometimes I feel like they give us, what we already know. But Inky Johnson had something very interesting that, really struck me. And he said that, everybody wants great things, but for every great thing that you want, like, you have to be very intentional what you want. For everything that you're going to send to the universe is going to throw that thing right back at you. And it's going to test you to see if you really equipped
to deserve it. To deserve it.
Exactly. So for me, when you understand that, failing is part of the process.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to fall and you got to fail in front of everybody, and you have to be able to take it
Yes.
you know, to build yourself back up and to do whatever you said you was going to do.
Beautiful.
If you can't take it, that means this wasn't for you.
For you. Amen. My brother Ian, this was a gem. This was a miracle. We cannot thank enough Dad and his influences. And we only hope the continent can get the best of you, because you are in giving mode. So keep giving.
Thank you.
Keep giving, bro.
Appreciate you.
One love.
Hey, if you like today's story, press like, leave a comment, subscribe, come back for more stories from founders and funders changing the face of sports, tech, entertainment, and fashion from Africa to the rest of the world. We look forward to seeing you again soon.